Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Survivor Calgary All-Stars Fire and Ice Recap Podcast. This is for episode 6, the merge episode, Dead or Alive. Krish, what did you think of our merge episode this week?
I was pretty shocked at the ending. I'm not gonna lie. I was like sitting back on my couch, relaxing. Everything was going more or less according to how I was expecting it. And then tribal.
You think it was an even easy Evan vote coming?
I really did. Like, dude has Teflon on. I don't know what. Like, unbelievable.
Yeah, we saw Evan and Sean doing some conversations in the background as we were sort of seeing this Jackson POV for most of the episode, but we'll get into the vote later. I think before we begin with the actual merge episode, we need to talk about our 0.5, our edge return.
Yeah, go Cam. Let's
Cam
go.
is back. He picked you for Guess Who and almost lost because of it.
I appreciate the dedication though. And also great picture you guys chose. I love it. Mm-hmm. I saw it on the TV and it took me a second to recognize myself, not gonna lie.
Well, Kristen knew how much you meant to Cam. So that's the reason why.
She was able to it's broadcast on
there. You done so quickly. So Cam is back. He's gotten some information from Eric. Sort of sub theme of this episode is sort of the hole that Eric left behind in the game. We see a few people comment on, oh, I had a lot of plans to work with Eric, or Eric told me these things, or all these sorts of things. And despite not being in the game, he's still having a pretty large impact.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to see how his relationships were so strong that the beginning of this episode was basically just like, oh, Eric told me this. Oh, Eric's no longer in the game. I need to find number 2. He really was playing a good game.
Yeah. Yeah, if 5 out of 6 odds, he's going into this merge extremely well.
Yeah.
Now, before we actually get into sort of the day 2 stuff, because as a reminder to people watching who aren't out there, all of what you have seen up until this episode was all in the first day of gameplay. It sort of gives you an idea of why Yeti looks so battered by the end of episode 5, where you don't really appreciate it's like, oh, they have not had a break. They have like a 5-minute period between a tribal council and a challenge, and then they have to do another 30-minute discussion of who to vote off. And then they have a tribal where they're stressed out about being voted off, and then they have another challenge and they find out they have to vote another person off. And it keeps cycling and cycling and cycling over and over again.
It was exhausting. It's lots of fun, but oh man, when I played it, each day was probably like more tiring than going on like a long hike and stuff, because you're mentally and physically just like shot.
Yeah, like mentally, physically, socially, every type of way that you could be getting drained, you are getting drained in this game.
And you're too busy playing, so you're not eating either.
Yeah. Yeah, I would honestly think, like, biggest advice I would give is bring things that you can eat quickly and be constantly hydrating.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time you'll like bring food that you can like heat up quickly or cook quickly, and you don't have enough time to eat something like that in between a challenge or something. You'll have a regular lunch, but that's not enough really to sustain you for the day. You need more. Now, we also had a situation where people were sort of talking about the fallout of the merge. So Cole and Shervin had a conversation on night 1 while everybody's eating. And then it seemed like, to some degree, the Phoenix 4 also sort of caught Shervin talking to Sean about maybe playing both sides here.
Yeah, I was surprised that Shervin thought that he burned Sean. But at the same time, I also forgot that he told everyone about his idol.
I think at this point, Sean might know.
Yeah.
He might have learned off screen.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Phoenix 4 have accidentally overheard Shervin talking to Sean about it.
Yeah,
are not confident in him being a number anymore.
that was the first little, I guess, breadcrumb we got about what was going on in the bigger picture with Sherwin sort of strategizing with Sean and Evan.
Yeah. And then we get to the challenge after sort of seeing sort of a recap from Cole and Taylor on where they are in the game. We get to the challenge, which is a Survivor Calgary classic. I think we've done it literally every season. Spoon Me. We added a little bit of the fork them aspect to this challenge with the edge. And this challenge had some important consequences beyond just who won immunity.
Yeah. Firstly, I'd like to say that the addition of the fork me twist really added some like excitement. It made it a lot harder for anyone to just stand on the sides, because no matter where you were, there were threats everywhere.
Yeah, just stay away from Tim, especially.
Yeah, everyone is
He's gonna.
really
He maybe can reach out half the arena.
There.
Yeah, and then placement dictated when they were able to take out bounties.
Yeah, I found the bounty twist really interesting. So it's basically for the next 3 tribal councils, each person that gets eliminated,
it possibly can go for more than 3 if a person who has a person's bounty doesn't vote for that person. Then that second or third reward can be given to the next person. But realistically, it's probably going to happen in the first 3 tribal councils of the merge.
Yeah, okay. That's really, I enjoyed the twist. It adds another layer sort of in strategizing. It doesn't seem like everyone was really talking to each other about whose bounty they had. But we got a fun little moment when Taylor and Craig both basically told each other that they had their bounties.
Yeah, and off screen we did have like off edit, we did have a few more people reveal what their bounties were to each other. It's just that there was a lot of things going on in this vote, and we sort of had to cut a lot for time.
I also really found it interesting how many different strategies there were when it came to taking the bounty. Some people were taking bounties to protect other people. I think it was Sherwin that took his own bounty, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was taking his own bounty to make sure no one else would be going for him. And then you had people that were going, obviously, for the most, I guess, who they thought would be the most obvious to be going next.
Mm-hmm. And there's an interesting sort of split between the power you get from going first versus going last, or like, and sort of that spectrum in between. Because while you get the highest chance of who you want if you're going first, if you're going last, you know who the person who was not picked by anybody is, which gives you a lot of valuable information about who is positioned very well strategically in the tribe.
Yeah, and also, like Malone mentioned, how he chose Robin, one, to protect her, but also to see if anyone picked her. That also like is a way that you can gauge strategy when you're like partly through the order as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What did you think of generally who took what bounty? So we had the interesting strategy of Sherwin taking himself and Malone taking Robin to protect. But out of the sort of more aggressive selections, what do you think of some of those bounty picks?
I enjoyed seeing Evan take Cole's bounty.
Evan and Cole took each other.
I love it. He's holding that grudge, and I hope like he's deflecting all these bullets. I'm just waiting for one more to deflect the way he wants.
It is at this point that production is seriously like keeping a tally of how many votes Evan gets over the course of the season, as like a record keeping thing of like, can he beat like the Survivor TV show record at this point for number of votes cast against him? Because he had some amount pre switch. I think he got some in like first 2 episodes.
Yeah,
maybe, and then he got 5 on the episode where he played the idol, and 4 on the episode he played the shot in the dark, and now another 2. So he's already at 11, not counting those first few episodes, and not counting when he's actually theoretically eliminated.
And he's almost certain to cop some more votes here or there. Like, if for no other reason, then he's an easy name to put out for the split vote, because his name has been out there so many times already.
He is the person that you say, yeah, I wouldn't mind an Evan vote if you don't want to say who you're actually targeting.
Exactly, yeah.
Which is always an interesting position to be in an early merge. Is like, okay, I feel like my name is not long for this world, but you know, you can still keep going. And obviously, he did enough in the strategic aspect of this game to keep moving. We saw a little bit of Sean doing a lot of work for his duo in the conversations that we actually saw. We saw a conversation with Sean between Sean and Craig, and also I think that was the main one that we saw. And then we also just saw him sort of in the background.
Yeah, I honestly, like, you got to commend the fact that he was sitting on the bottom of the tribe, and at the same, he still went back to Craig because he had that relationship. Even though I feel like a lot of Phoenix didn't really trust him that much, he still like believed in his relationships. He went out there, he did the work, and we saw it pay dividends at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, Sean was looking at both sides, one of which who was actively targeting him and one who wasn't, and seemingly made the correct decision of going with the group that was targeting beforehand, because he is sort of, for better or worse, grouped up with Evan at this point.
Yeah, and I hope they make a run. Like, everyone loves an underdog story. Both of them had their had one foot out the door when the tribe switch happened.
Yeah,
and now they both made it to merge, and have at least helped orchestrate a pretty big blindside in the game.
Yeah. We got a little bit of Sean sort of trying to convince Craig about resource removal. Was a sort of key term that he brought up. There is a belief still in the game, and although this might be changing to some degree with some of the conversations we saw, that Malone is still, despite never talking to anybody about actually finding it, Malone is definitely the person who took the me idol.
Oh,
he definitely has an idol.
It's not Sydney. There's no chance.
There's no chance it's Sydney. It could be
Craig.
Craig.
One of the few people that was comfortable and didn't really have much to lose if she did take the idol. But she's too loyal. There's no way. There's no way she has it.
Yeah. And then we also saw a conversation between Cole and Jackson where sort of a lot of this was discussed. I would argue that we see Jackson's probably best trait in the game of Survivor, which is his read of social dynamics in a merge situation. He seemingly has a fairly good grasp of what groups and what lines exist in this group of 11 people.
Yeah.
In that he's picked out that he's the fourth on this group of four, or fourth in a group of five, which he includes Shervin in later on. He has picked out that Sean and Evan are together. He's picked out that Craig or Sid are probably one of the ones who have actually taken the me idol. He's picked out that who he really wants to work with going forward and who he thinks is trustworthy. Now, there is one mistake there in who he thinks is trustworthy. He's putting a lot of his money on to Sid.
Everyone's putting all their money into Sid, just buying Sid stocks everywhere.
And I will say production was also buying Sid stocks everywhere after this episode. There were production definitely had some odds-on favorites for who was going to win the season at this point in the game.
Yeah, especially after the vote, she's in a crazy good position.
Good position where she has two idols.
Either of the idols.
Yeah, although to some degree, the bounty one, it's almost one of those ones that's sort of bound to come out because people will do some sort of cross note collaboration on who had what bounty by a certain point, and you're sort of supposed to tell your allies who your bounty was, or else you'll sort of be untrustworthy.
That's fair, yeah.
But the me idol is still a complete mystery to everybody in the game.
Justine got voted out with it. That's
it. That had to be it. Or Malone got voted out with it. He got blindsided again somehow.
It really needs. I tell you. He didn't know he had the idol, and then he got voted out with the idol.
Yeah, I don't know how you could make that mistake of not knowing you have the idol when you took the me, but he did it. He did it. Well, we'll have him on the show later to ask him why he didn't have the idol that he was supposed to have. We also got sort of the full breakdown of the hole that Eric left in the game, as we sort of talked about before. Cole and Jackson talking about how they wanted to have this big final three or final four going with them two plus Eric plus Shervin. Cam going up to Shervin and saying, hey, I know Eric told me to work with you. told me don't trust Cole. And so it seems like we might be getting some edge consequences to Cole's backstab of Eric.
Yeah, I think that it definitely doesn't help Cole that Eric got eliminated, and then the edge return challenge was literally right after. There was no time for him to process like the emotions or like take a look at it from like gameplay perspective. It was just emotions, which like fair. I can't blame him. That would have hurt.
Yeah. And we do get this sort of duo form, the showmance that was prophesized in episode 1 or 2, where Cam said, he doesn't know it yet, but we're gonna have a showmance. And then Sherman says, I need a long-term partner, which is about as showmance as you can get.
The
roommate alliance.
Cam's heart was melting when he said that. He was so happy.
The roommate alliance, as I heard some people
find themselves in a really, really good position though, because both of them haven't pissed anyone off.
Yeah,
and they're like, so they like, sorry, both of them haven't pissed anyone off. So really, like, they can, if they play it well enough, they can just flip flop between the sides the whole way until they need to make a move. But
which is interesting because they did say in one of those conversations that they sort of wanted to pick a side and run with it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like they actually really want to flip flop all that much. We'll see how that actually turns out. I find that when you're in the middle, you do end up wanting to flip flop purely because you know you're at the bottom of whatever group you're flip flopping over to every time.
Yeah.
But Cam might consider himself in a pretty good position on either side. And it seems like they have, at least for now, picked the Fire plus Evan and Sean grouping. We get the conversation between Craig and Taylor about them taking each other's bounties. Would you be worried if you were in a group of 4, either from being the person in that group of 4 who has the other person's bounty and they have your bounty, or even if you're an alliance member, if you're like Sydney and you hear that Craig has Taylor's bounty and Taylor has Craig's bounty, are you worried about that causing a fracture in this tight 4?
I think it could cause a fracture, but the fact that they were so open and forthcoming with that information right at the beginning, I feel sort of papers over that, like those cracks that would have been formed. I think if they're a little more apprehensive with that information, not wanting to share it, maybe I can see it being a little more like of an issue. I also think just because the bounties, like, there's only 3 rewards. When you're in a group of 4, I don't think that you really want to like blow that up so early.
Blow that up so you can get not even an idol at this point.
Yeah, they're like the rewards when it comes to like backstabbing someone in like a very tight knit group, I feel like is a little less.
Yeah, and for clarification for the audience, the rewards that we saw on the bounty posters, which were on the actual forms, if the players were sort of paying attention to that as they were signing, was an immunity idol for the first person, the enduring ember advantage for the second person, and the iced out advantage for the third person. We don't know what those last 2 rewards do yet, but we can make maybe some speculation as to what they might do. And then we get the sort of this big group of Cole, Sid, Robin, Shervin, Cam, and Jackson, who are like, can we pitch names? Here's our name, it's Evan. And by the time things shift around, we see like a Malone-Sean conversation. Sid has now come up to Jackson as like, everything's changed. Jackson says he's not good at this game, which I don't know. He seems to do pretty well. He seemed to do pretty well this episode.
I think when he says he's not good at this game, he means he's not like one to lie and one to like want to backstab. But I think you can be good at Survivor without having to do those things.
At least for a good portion of the game.
Yeah.
We'll see if Jackson is ever pushed into a situation where he has to and fails.
In his monologue, though, he did mention that he did learn from his last season, and he might not hold the like trust the same way that he did before. He's
Yeah.
like burn me once, like shame on me sort of
He is
thing.
a little bit more apprehensive about the people he's already working with. He does know that he's on sort of the bottom of that group and is aware of the social dynamics of what's going on. Yeah, and then we have the vote. It ends up being a 5-4-2, I believe, or 5-3-2, something like that, for Malone, then Robin, and then Evan. An important note here is that they intentionally went for Cam, Shervin, or it was Cam, Evan, and Sean who voted Robin, and then the rest voted for Malone, except for Malone and Robin themselves. Interestingly, Cole was brought into the loop on this vote and did vote for Malone.
I don't think Cole had a choice. You get brought in on a vote like this, your vote's not actually making a difference. Malone doesn't have the idol, and Cole's not going to be playing his idol for Malone. I don't think that his vote would have made. And even if Cole
needed to get a third, they would have needed to get a fourth to break the split.
Yeah, because if Cole had voted, it would have been a 3-3 tie, right?
Yeah.
But good for Cole that he got brought in on the vote. Shows that there's at least
some outlet there where he can move forward.
Someone in that group wants to work with him. Maybe just one person, but
does the fallout from this vote change your opinion on Cole's move last episode of taking out Eric? And I know that's a little bit of results-based thinking, but the results are so immediate that it's like might be predictable.
Yeah, if you look at it like just in a microcosm of just this one episode. But it's also possible that if Eric was here and one of Malone and Robin were out, they might have then gone over and tried to get Cole out because there's a lot of...
Or if it was the exact same scenario, but Malone had won fire instead.
Yeah, then it would have been like, that's the worst case scenario. If Malone had won fire, then Cole is pretty much toast. Because you even now you can see how much of a threat everyone thinks he is. Because every episode, there's at least one person that brings him up as someone that they need to target.
Do you think he's in a bad position, or like, do you think he's drawing dead, or do you think that there's a way out for him at this point in the game?
I think there's a way out. I think it helps that like it seems that everyone's pretty like malleable when it comes to working, a little fluid. He also has an idol, and I don't think that his threat is enough that anyone is like no one like I don't think like Cole could like potentially convince anyone to work with him. Mm-hmm. I don't think anyone is like 100% against
maybe Evan.
Cole. Other than Evan. Yeah, I was just gonna say, other than Evan. I can see like how with the numbers the way they are and how many people are left, how Cole could be a very useful tool once these factions start to
especially if he's an idol that you can play around with or
exactly. And he might be able to like get himself some footing through there.
And the last person we sort of need to talk about who's remaining, and then we'll talk about Malone a little bit, is Robin. Robin seems to be in a worse position than Cole. Do you think there's a way out for her out of this situation? Our former winner.
Like there's always a way out, but I think for her it's a lot more challenging than for Cole. She firstly doesn't have an idol that she can leverage, and she hasn't really been on a tribe with a lot of the people that are remaining now in the game.
Yeah, pretty much the people who she's been on a tribe with is Cole, Shervin, and Sean and Evan. And yeah. Evan is not really going to want to work with her. And Cole, who is fairly tightly coupled with Jackson, Jackson has no want at all to work with Robin, really. Yeah,
I like fair. She is really good at the game. I mean, I can't really say anything else. Yeah. if I was playing that season, I also wouldn't trust Robin.
And the last person I think who we need to talk about at this tribal council beyond Sid, who we already have getting the idol, is Malone. Generally, what did you think of Malone's gameplay over the course of the season?
I feel like he came into the season in like a pretty tough position, like from the get-go. Like when in the first like episode, half the conversations are about getting Malone out. I,
Yeah, and like
he did
even when he's
merge,
not on
like,
their tribe, it's about getting Malone out somehow. I'm all
yeah.
too familiar with this in season 3. My conclusion was that like, yeah, this is sort of when if you can maybe get through this vote, there might be some scenario where you get out, but it's real hard to get past that early merge or merge boot.
And honestly, having Robin there might have hurt him a little bit, because that showman's is there. Everyone's wanting to split it up, and
yeah. And after that Eric vote, the power couple became the power trio, which became even more threatening.
Exactly.
Well, speaking of Malone, let's bring both Malone and Taylor into our conversation here. Hello, you two. How are you doing? Malone, we can't hear you, by the way.
Howdy.
Well, I'm good.
You're good, Taylor. What did y'all think of that episode? How are you feeling about Malone? How are you feeling about being eliminated?
It still hurts. Just as bad as when it happened. But I'm not bitter about it. Like it was going to be a tough battle from the start, as you guys were just kind of saying. I can't really be bitter about that because it's all my own doing. You know, people have done much worse things than me in the game, but they've done it and shut up about it. So they kind of sneak under the radar a little bit. I made my own bed here for sure.
Has watching back any of like the conversations that you were not involved in and seeing how much of a conversation topic you were in episodes 1 to 5 sort of given you a little bit of peace and like, okay, I was sort of drawing dead just the scenario I was put into?
Yeah, I think it it offers comfort in that I think if I go back and play this game, this one specifically, 100 more times, I don't think I make it much further. But it just kind of like twists the knife on the fact that I felt like I played boringly when I talked about this last time. Like I played so boringly just to like in a bid to try and win some favor, and it wasn't what a waste of time that was. I should have just gone out.
Everyone is just like he's not playing really manically. He must be up to something.
Yeah, it's like I should have voted me. I should have found 3 idols. Yeah.
Taylor, how are you? How are you liking the season so far?
Oh, it's so good. It's just fun to rewatch everything and see all the things that I wasn't involved in go down. So it really is a trip.
The first question I want to ask to both of you is, what was the mentality going into that bounty selection? Malone, we sort of got your thoughts of wanting to protect Robin, and you were hoping that Cole and Robin would sort of have the same thought process of picking sort of within that group to isolate them. Taylor, you got seemingly maybe stuck with Craig. What was going on there?
Yeah, when I went into it, I was essentially just targeting that Yeti 3. So Malone, Robin, and Cole, I think, were the first 3 names I said. And then I kind of went through a few more names. I can't remember exactly. I remember being very flustered during the process as well. But I remember I got down to Craig eventually, and I was like, okay, well, this isn't the worst one because like I will want to win her out eventually. So hopefully it's just like more of a long-term than a short-term plan.
And Malone?
Yeah, I mean, you mostly got my thinking in the episode. Basically, I was using it as intel because I figured I wasn't going to have the kind of the social capital pull off that vote. So for me, it was like I'm on the bottom, or not really. I'm on the bottom. I'm like I'm not in a power position, and I need to kind of stay low.
You're not a decider of this vote.
Yeah, I'm thinking like, I can maybe float through this round or two kind of thing. But if I start gunning for someone, I'm not going to last past this round. So for me, it was all intel was kind of the only way I could play it. And I was hoping that Cole and Robin were going to do the same. And maybe I should have just put my name there first as well. But no.
I think you wouldn't have gotten it anyway because I think Sid had already picked you at that point.
Yeah, but I would have at least known that because there's only a couple people in front of me. I would have known that either Evan, Cam, or Sid had
picked you.
Yeah, picked me. Yeah. So
was there an element of trying to figure out who had your bounty or who had what bounty that we sort of missed in the actual episode in those conversations?
There was a little bit. I wanted to. So something that didn't make the episode because it didn't happen is I never got to talk to Cole or Robin this whole round, and that's who I would have asked. Because I would have assumed that Cole would have said me, and then we could have like figured something out there. But I didn't really get the chance. I talked to Cole for like 10 seconds on the way to tribal, and that was it.
Yeah. Taylor, you're in another group of three that was able to talk and did seem to have some power over the vote in terms of you, Craig, and Sydney seem to be sort of this power three in the group. Do you think it is a 3 and then a 4 and then a 5, or do you think that the lines were a little bit more muddled than what the show might be presenting?
I'd say the 3 was fairly accurate. I did feel very close with Shervin and Cam as well. So like to me, it was almost like a 5, but I didn't want everyone to kind of know that we were like such a core group. So like maybe Cam would have been thrown in there too at points, but
Jackson
for the most
was definitely
part,
on the border.
And yeah. I didn't have as much of a relationship with Jackson, so it was more so like the others kind of keeping him in, and just like we were on the same tribe the entire time, so we had gone through a lot together. So we just kind of had that like unspoken trust going as well.
What was your sort of impression of Cam getting back into the game in general from both of you?
Yeah, well, I was very excited. I tried not to show it or celebrate out there, but I was very happy to see a Cam and Kristen final, because it was like, okay, like either way, I hope I have an ally out of this return. So, but yeah, definitely was very excited to see Cam even though I didn't show it much.
Yeah, I was kind of happy with Cam as well. Like, we didn't really vote him out, kind of thing. Like it was just unfortunate that he was kind of the victim of the idol.
It's kind of weird that Eric was somehow more voted out than Cam, even though it was sort of the same situation that happened.
Well, look, I would have beat Eric and Fire, so we were just saving time. We were thinking about production,
I think
it was the end of the day. We're tired.
I think if both of you guys are out this summer, we may need to have a Fire grudge match.
In truth, no, I would lose. I can't make fire because my fingers are really sensitive, so I can't get near flames, or I just start screaming. So it was definitely a betrayal for sure.
So I guess everyone can take you to the final 4 then.
Yeah. Hey, look, All-Star Heroes versus Villains season 10. When I'm back, bring me to the final 4 and put me in fire making. I'm not going to win.
This was my entire strategy in season 3, but I was training in fire secretly the whole time. Yeah, Chris, do you have any questions?
Malone, did you have any idea that there were votes coming your way?
So no, and then yes. Just the people I were talking to did a really good job at reassuring me. Taylor was one of those people, probably the most reassuring. Craig was also reassuring. And then, like, a little bit before Tribal, Jackson actually had a conversation with me where he was like, yeah, I'm hearing your name and Robin's name being thrown out. And I was like, wait, what? And then like perfect timing, Sydney sprints in and like I think fakingly out of breath from like 15, 20 feet away is like, hey, okay, you vote Evan, we're voting Sean. Like it's like literally like this like breathy like explanation of what's happening and like interrupting the only thing that could have tipped me off. So that was a pretty opportune. I think she probably saw Jax. I was like, oh. So yeah, and then Shervin walked up at one point and said, "Oh, we don't have time to talk." And that was it. So yeah, like the people who did talk to me did a really good job of reassuring me. And then that chat with Cole on the way to Tribal was Cole asking me like, I think we're good. Are you good? Are you feeling good? Which I think he was using as a way to kind of gauge like if I had fallen for it or not, kind of thing. And that kind of made me uneasy, and I was like, ooh, that's like, I feel like that's not a good conversation that I'm having with Cole right now. But the last time I had a conversation like that right before Tribal Council with a Parker twin, it caused me to play an idol that I didn't have to play, which kind of like sent me down a spiral. So I was like, well, I'm not going to overact this time, and I'm just going to play it cool.
We're different people.
Yeah. As much as you look and sound the same. Trust neither of you, I guess, is the answer. But
I showed you my idol before basically anyone else.
Yeah, I don't. Well, yeah. So I didn't want to repeat of that, and then so because of that, I was a little on edge, but didn't want to do anything about it. And like I said, I still felt good. But then when I see Sean not play his shot in the dark, you can catch me in the Tribal Council in the episode. I'm staring daggers at Robin, trying to catch her eyes to like let her know that it's us. But she never looked at me, and so
Was there a Tribal playing the shot in the dark, or did you think you needed the numbers?
I didn't really think about shot in the dark. I was figured like if I play it, I'm gonna sketch people out again. And it's going to be, again, repeat of Voss Tribe. So, yeah, it was like too little too late by the time I kind of pieced it together. And then, other than Shot in the Dark, there's not much I could have done. Could have maybe, like, try and convince Cole to vote for Robin instead of me, and then me vote for Robin and try and frame it as like, oh, somebody misvoted because it was hectic or something, and then that way.
And somehow there's also no votes against Sean or Evan.
Yeah, well, there'd be one we wouldn't tell Robin.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously, like that was slim chance. I think Cole's smarter than that. So
I think Cole probably preferred keeping Robin in the game over you too.
Yeah, well, that was actually something else. I was a little shocked to go before Robin. I honestly thought Robin, of the two of us, is the bigger threat. And I thought I had done a good job of making relationships with people on the Phoenix Tribe. And so I figured if it came down to it, Robin would be the one to go out of the two of us. But I think the loudmouth thing, the idol thing, Sid probably tipping the scales a bit to get her bounty. I think it kind of added up. So I was a little shocked to go. I really thought it was going to be Robin.
Taylor, how aware was your group that Sid had Malone's bounty and would be getting an idol out of this?
That's a tough one. I don't think we knew at this point.
Okay.
I could be wrong. But knowing how sneaky she is with these things, I would assume that we don't know at this point. And she probably did do a little extra pushing, because I remember it was like a toss up. Like I know that
it seemed when Craig and Sean were talking, they were leaning towards Robin vote with Malone getting the split.
Right. Yeah, and then I honestly can't remember how the Malone came about, but it's one of those ideas that I won't shut down, because like I did want to work with you at when I first came up to you in our first conversation.
Yeah, okay.
And then There was all this, like, all the underlying, like, oh, he's been with Cole and Robin too long now, because this was like we weren't together for very long. So like, and I didn't realize, I didn't know you guys were dating. You and Robin were dating until like the day before, or like the day we started, probably. So then I was like, oh, I can't trust a showman. It's like, I'm never gonna be number 2.
Meanwhile, Cam's got like 7 going on in the background.
Dude, don't get me started.
It's those nip slips. They just drop you. Yeah, I've been giving people grief for not knowing it was Sid and like pulling my hair out looking at clips when I'm editing. And then I realized that I had the most intel of all, and that was knowing that I didn't have the idol. And I still didn't think it was Sid. So I think it's a testament to how well she played.
Yeah,
I love having the graphic come up with Sid and the Me Idol right next to it every time she's talking about the Me Idol and someone else having it. It's just...
I could not believe it when I found that out. Oh,
I still don't know at this point in the game. I think like 2 or 3 more people get voted out while I'm on the edge, and like I'm like, what's going on?
Did no one get it? Did production lie to us?
Oh my god.
Anything else you, Chris, you want to ask Taylor or Malone you want to talk about?
No, I'm good.
I just want to say that I really appreciate, obviously, everything that goes into making the season and all the season survivors. Genuinely, like, these 2 weekends have been the 2 greatest weekends of my life. It's so much fun, and like everyone that you get to meet out there it's incredible. I was tear in my eye when I saw Craig's confessional, which I hope was about me.
It was.
Yeah, it's such a good time. It's such a great community. So big thanks, obviously, to you and Cole and Tom and all the other people in production, like for just doing such a great job.
I mean, you helped this season too with some of the editing. You edited the next episode coming up and also the Me or We episode. So thank you for that. And I think it goes without saying that it's, while production and me and Cole and Tom put a lot of work into this thing, it is ultimately the people that make it as special as it is. So thank you everybody else for coming out as well. Taylor, you have anything you want to close out on?
No, yeah. What Malone said, just this is amazing. I have a lot of fun watching it. I have even more fun playing it. Yeah, there's just endless thank yous to everyone involved. It's a great time.
Thank you. Well, we're going to get down to business of who the player of the episode is. Malone, Taylor, thank you again for joining us.
Woo! Bye.
We'll see how Taylor does in subsequent episodes, and if Malone can make it back from the edge. The cups have reset. He's in as good of a position as anyone else on that edge right now to make it back.
Yeah, all the cups from the auction are all gone, right?
Yeah, they're all resetting at 1 cup from the merge going forward.
Awesome.
Krish, I can give you a short list, or we can just go right into it. Who do you think the player of the episode is, or do you want me to give you a short list?
I can go into it. I mean, like, it has to be Sydney. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
it's the one that you really can't argue with. She has 2 idols now.
2 idols, was the last person picked in the bounty board. Everyone now Jackson is thinking, oh, it might be someone in my group who has it, but Sydney is like the last person on his mind who could have done it.
She has everyone wrapped around her finger. I don't know how she's doing it, but she's killing it.
She really, really is. Like I said, this isn't a spoiler for future. This is just what was happening at like earn conversations while production was meeting about what was going on in the game. Everybody had odds on Sid to win the game at this point, and I think it's pretty obvious.
If I was gambling, I would be like putting it all on her as well. I mean, though the odds probably wouldn't even be worth it. They'd be like, what do you even get? Like,
it's a game of like what, 9 or 10 people, and she still has negative odds to win the game at this point.
It's like voting for Max Verstappen to win the drivers' championship in F1. Right? Like, what's the point?
Well, thank you for joining me. We will be back next week with Malone's edited episode 7. We got some idea that there might be some water guns involved and some slow-mo involved. And we'll see how the rest of this merge dynamic shakes out now that this power couple has been defused.
Yeah, everything's open. There's no power couples to say. Lots of alliances though. Lots of people think that they're on the in, but everyone can't be on the in. So I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and we will see you all next time.